Good day, everyone. This is Endocrine System that will be presented to you by yours truly, Shianell, and together with my partner, Miss Mika Paraso. So allow me to tell you our objectives. So at the end of the discussion, the learner should be able to, number one, understand the concepts of endocrine system, and number two, identify the hormones of each endocrine gland and its function. So let us define what is endocrine system. So endocrine system. Endocrine system is composed of endocrine glands and specialized endocrine cells located throughout our body. So as you can see, here is the different glands of our endocrine system. We have here hypothalamus, pituitary gland, pineal gland, thyroid and parathyroid gland, thymus located here, pancreas, adrenal gland, ovary in female, testicles in male, and placenta, which is during pregnancy. So our endocrine system, it regulates our body's internal environment. Think of it think of it as our government, for example. So our government, it regulates our country. Our government also has a different has different agencies, for example, and these agencies have their specific function. So just like the endocrine system, it has different endocrine glands that has different functions throughout our body. So endocrine glands and cells secretes amounts of chemical messengers called hormones into our bloodstream. So our endocrine glands, it secretes hormones. So what are these hormones? So hormones are chemical messengers that have an effect on target cells that are distant from the cells that they are secreted from. So our hormones, it is the chemical messengers of our our body or our internal environment. So our hormones, it is released into our bloodstream paingon sa target cells. Unya, kani po dayong target cells, nani sila receptors. Unya, kaning after dayon nga ma-receive dayon sa cell through its receptors ang hormones, it will then do its specific function. So speaking of functions, what are the functions of the endocrine system? Let us find out. So number one, metabolism. The endocrine system regulates the rate of metabolism, the sum of chemical changes that occurs in tissues. Number two, our endocrine system controls the food intake and digestion. So our endocrine system regulates the level of fullness and breakdown of food into nutrients. Number three, tissue development. The endocrine system influences the development of the tissues in our body. Number four, ion regulation. The endocrine system regulates the solute concentration of the blood. And number five, water balance. The endocrine system regulates the water balance by controlling the solutes in the blood. And number six, heart rate and blood pressure regulation. So the endocrine system helps in regulating the heart rate and blood pressure. It also helps preparing the blood for physical activities. Number seven, control the blood glucose and other nutrients. So our endocrine system regulates our blood glucose and other nutrients in our body. Number eight, control of reproductive functions. So the endocrine system controls the development and functions of our reproductive system for male and females. Number nine, uterine contraction and milk release. So our endocrine system releases uterine contraction during delivery and milk release from the breast of the lactating moms. And number seven, immune system regulation. So our endocrine system helps in regulating the production and function of our immune system. So in totality, the function of endocrine system is to really regulate our internal environment of our body. So, the release of hormones into the bloodstream, so it lets the hormones travel from cells to the other parts of the body, making it regulates our body internally. So now, let us go on the different glands of the endocrine system. So we have here hypothalamus and pituitary glands. So what are these? So in our brain, there are actually 3 glands in our brain. First is the hypothalamus, next is the pituitary, and next is the pineal gland, which will be reported by my partner, Miss Paraso. So what is this hypothalamus? So hypothalamus is considered to be the control system. Why? Why is it a control system? Because it links the central nervous system and our endocrine system. So ang atong hypothalamus is ginalink niya ang central nervous system o ang atong endocrine system. Ginaunsa niya og link how is this possible? Ginaunsa niya paglink ang atong central nervous system ug ang atong endocrine. So ang atong hypothalamus it takes stimuli from our brain and it's gonna pass those signals sa atong pituitary gland, which is a gland sa atoang endocrine system. So, di ba kay take man siya, ginalink man niya ang central nervous system o endocrine system. So, what are the difference between our nervous system and the endocrine system? So, both of these endocrine and nervous system, it sends out signals or messages throughout sa toang lawas. But the nervous system, it uses electric impulses to send messages through neurons. And then our endocrine system, it uses hormones to send messages to target cells through the bloodstream. So take note of this. When you say nervous system, it uses neurons. And then endocrine system, it uses hormones to send out messages or signals throughout our body. So going back, our hypothalamus links our central nervous system and our endocrine glands through passing the signals from our brain down to our pituitary gland, and our pituitary gland is part of our endocrine system. And let us define what is pituitary gland. So pituitary gland, it is considered as the master gland because it takes signals from the hypothalamus and it will send out those signals to almost other endocrine glands. So our pituitary gland it controls atong endocrine gland, it controls other endocrine. So ginakontrol niya ang other endocrine glands by telling them nga mag-release na sila og hormones. So kani si pituitary gland, for example, atoang thyroid gland, ginaingnan ni naga-release ni si pituitary gland og hormone. Paingon kang for example kang thyroid gland nga iingon nga oy pag-release ng hormone. So that is the function of pituitary gland. So kani po dayong pituitary gland is naa ni siya duha ka part. So the first part of our pituitary gland is the anterior pituitary and the next is the posterior pituitary. So let us define more about the anterior and posterior pituitary. First is the anterior pituitary. Anterior, diba, means front or front. So the anterior pituitary, it is located in the front lobe of our pituitary gland. So just like I've said, our endocrine glands releases hormones. So what are the hormones of our anterior pituitary? First is our growth hormones. So klaro kayo sa iyang ngalan no nga na siya kinalaman sa growth sa atoang body. So the growth hormone or the GH it stimulates growth of bones, muscles, and other organs by increasing gene production. So that is growth hormone. Next, thyroid stimulating hormone or the TSH. The TSH influences the growth and activities of the thyroid gland. Para sa example ganina, ang atong pituitary, it tells the other endocrine gland, it controls them, telling them to release a hormone, and it also controls the activities of the other endocrine gland. So, muna siyang example, si thyroid stimulating hormone. Next, adrenocorticotropic hormone or the ACTH. So, ACTH regulates the endocrine activities of the cortex portion of the adrenal gland. So, adrenal gland, it is other member of the endocrine system, other gland of the endocrine system. So, this ACTH, which is released by our pituitary, it regulates the endocrine activity there. Let us define more the cortex portion of our adrenal gland later. Mas ma-discuss pa na nato siya. Next, the gonadotropic hormone. So this hormone, it regulates the hormonal activities of our gonads. Our gonads is our ovaries and our testes. So it has other hormones. For example, here is luteinizing hormone. Our luteinizing hormones is in female, it stimulates ovulation, and then in the male, it secretes testosterone. So testosterone is reproductive hormones of men. Next to that is the follicle stimulating hormone or the FSH. The FSH stimulates the follicle development of ovaries after the follicle matures, it produces estrogen and eggs that is ready for ovulation. So in male, the FSH stimulates sperm development by the testes. So FSH, it is responsible for in female, our ovaries, the estrogen, the eggs, the estrogen and the eggs that are ready for ovulation, and for male, it stimulates sperm development. Next, the prolactin or the PRL. So the PRL is similar to the growth hormones, but it is focused on the childbirth or in the female. So it focuses on after childbirth, it stimulates milk production sa mother's breast. And in male pod, na ay small traces of PRL pero there are no known function. And then last hormone is melanocyte stimulating hormone or the MSH. This MSH synthesizes melanin, which is, we are all familiar that is melanin is what give us pigmentation, and it protects our skin from the UV damage or UV of the sun. So that are the hormones of our anterior pituitary. And the next is our posterior pituitary. Our posterior pituitary is located at the back lobe of the pituitary gland. So what are the hormones of the posterior pituitary? Number 1 is we have oxytocin. Our oxytocin is released in significant amount during childbirth and in nursing women. The oxytocin causes contraction of the smooth muscle during labor, during sex relation, and during breastfeeding. So kaning oxytocin is responsible ni siya sa sa kanang pagmanganak bitaw ang babae. So it soften the it causes contraction sa mga soft muscle nila during sa pagpanganak, sa labor, or kunang sex relation or breastfeeding. So it causes milk ejaculation or the letdown reflex sa milk. So this oxytocin mo ning gina-release pag during that time. Next, the antidiuretic hormone or the ADH. So the ADH helps in regulating the water balance in our body. So it causes the kidneys to release water, decreasing the amount of urine. So nag-help ni siya sa kanang regulating sa water balance sa tuang body. Kay kung taas imong ADH, less imong urine production. Pero pag low pod ang imong ADH, great imong urine production. So dapat jud ma-regulate ang imuhang water balance sa imuhang body. So that is the anterior and the posterior pituitary. Let us go on to the next one. The next one is the thyroid and the parathyroid gland. So what are these glands? We have here the thyroid gland. Ang atong thyroid gland is located na siya diri sa tuang diri. It is our thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped organ located at the base of the throat, just inferior of the Adam's apple. So diri na siya makita. Our thyroid gland releases thyroid hormones. So thyroid hormones are considered to be the body's major metabolic hormones. So unsa man ang metabolic or unsa ba nang metabolism? So metabolism is the regulating of how fast the body uses calories from the food you ate. So muna siya ang metabolism. And then next, we have parathyroid gland. Parathyroid gland is four tiny glands that are embedded to the posterior wall of our thyroid gland. So sa likod sa thyroid gland, sa thyroid gland naatay ginatawag nga parathyroid gland. Nara kaning upat ka tiny diri nga nasa likod aning thyroid gland is mo ni siya ang parathyroid gland. So let us know more about the thyroid gland. So ang atong thyroid gland is naga-release pud ni siya og hormone. So these are the hormones of the thyroid gland. First is we have the thyroxine or the T4. So this is the major hormone nga ginasecrete sa ato ang thyroid gland. So kani siya actually, ang take note, ang thyroxine is inactive form ni siya. But the triiodothyronine or T3 is the active form of T4. So kaning T3, so mo ni siya ang active form sa T4. Once nga ang atong thyroid gland mag-release siya og T4, naay certain organ sa atong body nga i-transform ni siya into T3. Kay kung moingon mangod ka og inactive form, kay dili ni siya maka-impact og cell. So unsay ang pulos. So once nga ma-release na ning T4, other parts or organs sa tuang body kay ginahimo ni siya og T3, which is the active form of it, or para maka-impact na siya og cells. So ang function nila ani is it controls the speed of the body works, which is our body's metabolism. So it affects our heartbeat, our digestion, energy level, temperature, our mood, or our feelings. So mao na. So kaning duha, it works together to regulate how the body uses energy. So it regulates the metabolism of our body. Next hormone is the calcitonin. So our calcitonin is a hypocalcemic hormone. So what does this mean? So when you say hypocalcemic hormone, so the calcitonin is, it helps to regulate the calcium level in the body by decreasing it. So so it controls our calcium level in the body. But hypocalcemic man siya, so ginakontrol niya ang calcium by decreasing the level of it in our bloodstream. Next is the parathyroid gland. So ang ato ang parathyroid gland kay nag-release gyapon ni siya og hormones. So what are these hormones? Ang tawag sa hormone nga gina-release sa parathyroid gland is the parathyroid hormones, or the PTH, or the parathormone. So kani pong parathormone, opposite ni siya sa calcitonin, which is kani ang PTH is hypercalcemic hormone ni siya. So hypercalcemic hormone is, it helps in regulating the calcium level by increasing it. So, di ba ganina ang calcitonin kay ginapaubos man niya ang calcium level sa tong bloodstream. Kani po dayon ang PTH, ginapataas po niya. So, silang duha, they work hand in hand in regulating our calcium level sa ato ang body. So, PTH also stimulates the kidneys and intestine to absorb more calcium. So, yes. So, take note, always remember nga ang calcitonin, ginapaubos niya ang ato ang calcium level, ang PTH, ginapataas niya, they work hand in hand para ma-regulate ang ato ang calcium level. Okay, so much of that. And the next, we have adrenal glands. Unsa man ning adrenal gland? So, our adrenal gland is, it is a two small glands located superior to each kidneys. So, nara atong adrenal gland. Mo lugar na atong kidney. So, na siya sa babaw sa each atong kidney. So, naman tayo duha ka kidney. So, napud tayo duha ka adrenal gland. And each adrenal gland has adrenal medulla, or the inner, the medulla. And then, adrenal cortex, mo ni siya ang outer part. As you can remember, natoy gina-release ang ato ang pituitary gland nga hormone para mag-influence sa activity sa ato adrenal cortex. So, nara ang ato ang adrenal cortex. Sa gawas, adrenal medulla, sa sulod. So, let us know more about them. So, adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla, which is located here, is responsible for releasing catecholamines, or the stress response. So, what are the hormones of our adrenal medulla? Number 1 is epinephrine or adrenaline. Familiar kaayo ba? So, our adrenaline is responsible for our fight. Kana bitong stress nga stressful events. Nasunugan lugar mo. So, this gland, it releases the hormone adrenaline or the epinephrine. And then next is norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Kani po dayon is responsible ni siya sa flight. So, ang adrenaline, fight, ang noradrenaline is flight. So, both of them are released during stressful events. For example, kanang nalugar kay nalugar ka sa emergency or stressful situation. So, mo ni siya ang gina-release sa imuhang body. So, aya ra pud ni siya ma-release during sa emergency. Next is the adrenal cortex. Ang adrenal cortex nato is nara sa gawas. So, our adrenal cortex, it releases 3 major groups of steroid hormones, which are collectively known as corticosteroid. So, these are the hormones of our adrenal medulla. adrenal cortex. I'm sorry. Adrenal cortex. I forgot to change this into adrenal cortex. I'm very sorry, but these are the hormones of adrenal cortex. So number 1 is mineralocorticoids. So ang iyahag yung major nga gina-release ani is the aldosterone. So our aldosterone helps on regulating the mineral content of our bloodstream, particularly the level of potassium and sodium ions in our body. So this aldosterone does that. Next, as we have glucocorticoids. So ang atong glucocorticoids, it has cortisol. So it is a major glucocorticoid hormone. Naapoy cortisone. Other example of that is cortisone, and corticoids. So take note of this. The other example of hormones of glucocorticoids is cortisone. So these are they promote, so cortisone and cortisol, they promote normal cell metabolism and help the body to release long-term stressor. So kani silang ang cortisol o cortisone kay ginatabangan nila ang ato ang body para ma-resist bitaw ang long-term stressors. Unya kanipod sila ang cortisol o cortisone kay anti-inflammatory pud ni sila. And then once nga makafeel ka og pain, ginapataas nila imong glucose level para kanang when in stressful situation, ginapataas nila imong imong glucose level para ma-prevent ang inflammation o ang pain ana. So yes, it's said to be a hyperglycemic hormone because it reduces pain and inflammation, just like I've said. And the next is the sex hormones. So both male and female have sex hormones, and they are produced by the adrenal cortex throughout our lifetime in small amounts. So sa babae, sa lalaki, we have androgen or the sex hormones, and then estrogen sa female. So ang estrogen is our female sex hormones. And that will be all for my report, and then let's listen for Mika Parasa's report. Thank you!